bought the material for the frame for my little mobile table thing. Have these welded from this side from either end, but I'm keeping it clamped to the table while it cools. Got this plate over here. Basically gonna mill out the edges to keep it all square and kind of have this laid out where it's gonna be. Gonna have to do some straightening on this because it's not perfectly straight, but get it as close as I can, then cinch down that frame onto there, weld it to there, and then send it out for Blanchard grinding so it could be nice and flat.
Squad.
But yeah, so as you can tell from my hand, I've been bending some pipe. Took this off the CAD model. Boom. Definitely the most complex piece that I've bent so far. About to take it out of the bender and see how we did. Just barely ran out of pipe too. And 24 feet doesn't fit in my car, so they had to cut it in half. The other leg I have is the same, except this is like twice as long, but we'll see. So got this on the table. First time doing like a more, I guess, complex bend where you got multiple bends, different axes. So a little bit of a learning curve. It ain't perfect. That one's sitting right. You can see we got a weeble wobble in here. And I fucked up with this bend spacing. I gotta find a good way to figure out basically where that bends end. This one's a little easier to see. Some of these are kind of vague. And so I got the bend dimension between these two on point. This is fucking tits. Like both of these bends going here are the same. It is bent inwards a little bit, so that means one of these is kinked in. Oh, maybe it's because one of these is too tight that this is uneven. But anyways, it's still usable. The other leg that I'm making for this is going to be wider, so because I couldn't fit a full length in the element, I'm going to have to make that one into halves and join it toward the middle here. But yeah, dude, it's shaping up. Propped up how it's basically going to be. So what I have to do is I'll use the rest of these to basically cut this and cope the tube here and weld it like that. That'll go toward the inside of this frame. So one pair of legs is going on the inside, the other one's on the outside, and it should fold up fairly flat. So how's this thing shaping up? Basically went through here, had a little fucking fixture thing with a V-block so I could get the tops there. I did some trimming, whatever, da-da-da-da-da. And this is where we're at. This guy I had to shorten down there, over there. That one's all tacked together. I don't know what the fuck I did, but these fucking bends were just not mating up. If you put a rule against it, you know, it's not. I mean, I guess this one's better. This other one, in order to get the dimension I wanted over here, I couldn't get these to be flat, so I want to say my rotation was off when I indexed that just slightly, but whatever. I have these all coped. Basically, that one I originally didn't want to split down the middle. I thought I could keep it one bend, but to put it on the mill over there to cope it, it was just easier to cut it, and then I had to shorten it anyway. So all these are coped, and now what I'm gonna do is basically cut sections of this pipe to put perpendicular to here, and then go from there. But yeah, man, on this flame straightening thing, because I needed to get this straight, but it's an awkward way to push it. And I finally got it to work. I figured I'd share my findings with you. So before, I was just, from the videos that I've watched, people haven't like added any pressure to it. They were able to straighten it, but I think just because this is a heavier wall, that method wasn't working. So essentially what happened is once I welded these sucked in. So if you look at this side, I didn't even touch it. And there's a pretty decent gap right there. So it's pretty severe on both ends, and so I used that as my control, and I kept on trying different methods here. And so another video I found about a dude fixing a bridge, essentially what they did is they kind of cold set it. So I have pins over here and I have these side clamps that I will essentially push this in because I want this to come out. And so essentially what you do is, especially on tube, you get the corners so they're not like cherry red, but like a deep red on either side. And that will actually cause it to expand at first, but once you cool it, or just, it has to get completely cooled before you check everything. But once you cool it, it constricts it and makes that spot fatter. So now you can see there's no wobble in this ruler at all. So these actually, from these inner welds, this sucked in like this. So there's actually valleys here, but I just want this edge to be fairly straight. So now that I know that this worked, I'm gonna flip it over, heat it, and then I've just been using some water to rapidly cool it so I can get this finished. Table update. Went to McMaster, kind of chose what I wanted for wheels. Found these puppies with the cast iron core, polyurethane on the outside. Then casters. I was gonna get ones that locked in this rotation, but also does the wheel, but they were pricey as f. And I have a different idea that I think that'll work. I just realized this has a Zerk on there. Cool. What else? I got the shoulder bolts for it. Look at these fuckers. 3/4 with a 5/8 5/8 11 thread. These are a nice $15 a piece. Finished 2 of these pivots to get these guys. I basically took a piece of this pipe. That's what this is coped to. And then I turned a slug that's press fit into there and welded from this edge and machined it. Got this one done. It was all nice. I was getting the second one done. I had some shit on my mind. And this fucking guy, I didn't time the chuck at all. So this piece, when I started it, started flopping around, ejected out of the thing, just fucking completely snapped the tool. And there was a bunch of fucking divots and cuts and all this shit, but I was able to salvage it. Ain't the prettiest, but it'll work. But I got these holes reamed out nice. So dude, that's a precise ass fit, especially on this precision ground surface. I got a 30-second gap right there. I also machined all the lugs that I'm gonna press in, so these are gonna get drilled through, popped in like this guy. Just weld it from the back. It'll be nice and sturdy. The welds is just there to kind of keep it in place. Once I crank this down, you can see it's gonna stick out on that little shoulder. So that's about a 30-second gap. So it'll allow this to have some slop in it and won't basically seize down onto this bushing. So these will be able to rotate. And yeah, plate is all machined on all the edges. It's got some bow, it's got some crown, whatever. I'm gonna have to, I was trying to flame straighten that so I could learn from that and apply it to this. So I want to get this as close as possible as I can. I have where that ladder is gonna sit kind of traced out on here, so I got to clean that mill scale off, straighten it, weld it to there, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna have time to grind it, but we'll see. But yeah, man, a lot of fucking turning today, some fucking mishaps, and it's just how it be sometimes. But yeah, man.
Squad.
So table update. Had a bunch of pins to weld today, so I couldn't do as much work as I wanted to on this, but got these bungs all welded in. Very nice. And now I'm starting to tackle basically figuring out where these need to be tacked on here. Couple little issues I'm having. So I have the tube mated up against here, so it's perpendicular to these surfaces. And then I have little shims in here to kind of make sure that this is parallel with both of these. And so here's the issue. This one was sitting nice from the beginning, but then when that sat nice and this was all parallel, there's like a 1/2 inch gap. You can see that cope is just not sitting exactly where it needs to. So I've been kind of working this cope more and more to kind of push this in so, you know, I could square it up. Still got a little more to chew out on this guy, and that should fit in. That was about 1/2 inch before, so starting to work with that. So once that's settled, the other issue I'm having that I don't really see how I could correct right now is this surface should be parallel with these right here. So using a square, if I butt this up to here, you can see the edge of that square kind of is lined up right there. And then over here we got about a 1/4 inch. So I don't really see how I could necessarily straighten that out, like, but what I'm gonna have to do is whenever I make the mounts for the wheels, just kind of offset them by that distance so it all sits happy. But yeah, once I get this ground down, fitted, I could tack that, and then do the other side, and then mount that sucker. Well, first I have to flame straighten it, and then we can mount it. Yeet. All right, brother. So got these all notched. They're just kind of tacked together. Got the centers. They've been tacked, but got this lane here. And now, because there was a slight change in the distances from when I basically coped those on the mill. Let me zero this guy out. If these are lying flat, I guess that difference over there wasn't as critical because it kind of goes upwards, so the corners still kind of sit. When I put this, it's gonna settle in a minute. It shows that this end needs to go up by 0.67 of a degree, so it isn't that much. I had these kind of squeezed together and I marked where these kind of crossed, and that point was right there, but I think I should just do these flat how they want to sit, instead of trying to squeeze it together and then manipulate that to be flat. Another thing I picked up from McMaster was these guys. So this is a sleeve that you, essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill through here, put this in here, and then weld it, and then I'll machine a little thing on here. And these are like those pull lock thing majiggers. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. So you pull on this guy and that pin depresses. So I'll have that, and then I'll machine like a little thing to locate that piece in there. And that'll lock it into place. Then I also got these feet that I'm thinking once I basically roll it around wherever I want to set it, then somehow, I'm not sure if I'm overcomplicating this, but it'd be cool to have like a little mechanism that would come down that you could step on and puts the feet down. But yeah, that's where we're at. I'm gonna have to remark this. I used a laser to basically find where those tubes kind of cross to find that center point, and then I scribed the line with a height gauge, but probably gonna have to go rescribe these. But yeah, that's how it's looking. Pop the holes in that sucker for these things, and also machined. They're a little sloppy because I did it with an end mill, but that'll kind of help me, I guess, kind of adjust. It'll give me some room for movement, but whatever, it is what it is. And I also turned the receivers. Look at that finish, bro. And so these things are designed for this pin to be the shear, and so I made these in a way. So here's my idea. I'm basically gonna put this on the mill on a rotary table. I'm gonna mill out a slot, then crank this, like, still haven't decided, 10 or 15 degrees one way, and mill out that slot. So it creates like a catch, kind of like that. And so that will catch on this 1-inch shoulder that's actually gonna be welded to here. So that'll prevent when I'm, lifting this to set it up, it'll basically index it so it won't be able to go any further and just like flop out. I think it should be a little easier to set up. But yeah, dude, the fit on this thing is nice, dude. If I makes that noise, if I could do it with two hands and show it to you. So really happy with that, and yeah, setting up the mill now to do this. Yeah, but one to go. The end mill walked out a little bit, so I had to go on the lathe, kind of touch that bottom part. So there's a very tiny step, but I'm not too worried about it. Still don't know how I'm gonna cope this side. One with orientation, and yeah, but we'll see when we get there. So plate is looking good. I got it flat along here. This one dip is just probably the worst spot, but I'm thinking once I weld on that H-frame, it's gonna try to yank it and pull it in certain ways. So this is like preliminary round, and then once I have that thing welded to there, I'll do another round and then send it off to grinding. I was like, whatever, I want to do something quick and easy to satisfy myself. So I have my acetone bottle here, squeeze bottle. So you squeeze it and you get your shit. And basically wanted to make a cover for it. So if I have a hot TIG rod or something, it doesn't burn through it. So turned this up, welded this guy on terribly with that because it's a learning curve. But we got some pockets, we got some divots, but it's good enough to slap. Look, it just fucking cooked it. I had the amperage way too high, but whatever, fits right in. Here we go. We got a ejecto button from the bottom, but yeah, keep chopping. Anyways, you saw I machined these things, and originally the plan was to cope these, but because there's so many different variables in it, I'm basically gonna approach it differently. I'm basically just cope the tube, which matches this outside diameter, and I'll have a little guy like this, given I will have to weld that seam, but that way I could place it on there, figure out this rotation, get it all said and done. So I got this side kind of done how I want. Just gotta machine this guy to match a little bit, sliver that off, and then pop it on there. And we golden. But yeah, man. So this fucking job, this Mustang, I'm finally starting it tomorrow. I've been so busy. I decided, fuck it, I'm just gonna slap some shit together. And yeah, so what I decided, just turn down some axles for these guys, put a little dinghy in there. So that's straight on that. And then this tube with a nut, I'm just gonna have 2 feet. And then if I wanna move it, I'll just have to pick it up and fucking place it, whatever. F the swivels. I just didn't like how they were gonna look and whatever. So I think this will work. I literally just finished that. Now I got to get this fucker on this table, tack that shit onto there. Again, I might redo this in the future. I don't know. It's probably gonna stay like this if I'm being honest. Whereas this, I want to just tack it to that base because eventually I want to get that ground. But I just need a fucking table to work on this fucking project tomorrow because otherwise it's gonna be miserable. So I could at least put this vise on there and yeah. So this thing's always been a bitch to move, but the best way I found to do it was to take the jack it up here, and then can scoot around with that. So gonna make a semi-permanent version for it. So took some of the 7/8 tube, got this little thing turned on over here, and then the receiver that I'm gonna weld onto the bottom of that tube. We got 2 45-degree angles that'll nest nicely, and then found some old skateboard wheels, turned up an axle, tighten it down. I'm gonna attach that onto there, and so then I'll be able to get it under here and just fucking yeet this wherever the fuck I want. The other thing I'm gonna do is I bent this at the same angle as those legs, so I want to make a little attachment so this thing has a home just on the bottom of this, so it'll keep it out of the way. It'll still be able to function when everything's zipped up, but yeah, just kind of got this tackled, put a little plug at the end of it, and then put some knurling in here for some grip. And there's my piece done for the standoff. But yeah, I'll give you an up the handle. There's a little gappage over here, which I don't know if I'm gonna burn through, but got the peg, got that shaved off, and I just finished tacking that little stub in there, so don't have to be close on lining it up. And dude, clutch, man, wherever I want it. That was a little shaky, but exactly what I wanted. So easy, so effortless. So now I'm gonna pull apart that table. I think I'm gonna take it to the forklift over there so I could pick it up by the whole table, and then unbolt the legs and just kind of piece by piece sand it down, be able to fully weld that, and then start mocking up mounts for this. I'm thinking I'll put some kind of like threaded bosses or something, or maybe even tap that pipe, I don't know, and then 3D print a little handle that'll cradle this one by this flat and then somewhere over here. But yeah, can crank this out pretty quick. But yeah, man, loving it. Finally, I've had this idea for a minute, so I'm just glad it's fucking working out. But yeah, so got the legs basically blown apart, and I went through and used Scotch-Brite and some Gibbs to oil this up a little bit. Also did the handle. Now I have this kind of set up, and what I measured on here when this was all together was 120 degrees, you know, going this way, but I'm like 5 degrees off on that leg. You can just kind of catch it there. At this point I can't really bend it anymore, just because I know my clamp block was at the end of the tube, and now obviously I have that in the way. I don't know if grabbing it a little bit further, I think these wheels, or at least a stud sticking out, is going to catch, but I think it's just going to be close enough. I'm kind of brainstorming a way to attach this handle. Originally I was thinking about 3D printing something, but the thing is, like, I can't mount it from the bottom side because, you know, when I load this table, those tubes are used as a sliding surface, so I can't do it there. I can't mount anything to the face of this or the top, because when this is fully closed, this runs into the bottom of that table, so that's out of the question. So it's only something from the side. Now, you know, once this is unfolded, I got to think about loading this. You know, I'm not sure. I feel like, you know, if I'm on this side of the table, it would be easier to load that into there. So it'd be better if it was a catch at the bottom and then clips down at the top, because like trying to put this in from the bottom up, like, I don't know, I'm still kind of undecided. So I just kind of have everything set up right now, spaced out to, you know, how I want it. I'm gonna have to brainstorm this a little bit to figure out how to do it, but yeah, I think just good progress for today. But I'm gonna kind of sleep on this a little bit, see if I could come up with something while I'm trying to fall asleep. But yeah, let me know. So this is the final thing. Basically just have a little catch at the bottom. It locates it on that shoulder. I'm thinking that if anything, I could always crisp that up. I ended up welding it all through, but to make that like a hard 90. Oh, and also in terms of bending, I actually just put the switch in the vise and fucking cranked on it and got it even. So pop it in there, and then I have these little plates here. I took a center punch from the back, and then found like a little socket or just something with a hole, and then I beat it, so I made this little detent into it. Just clips right in. So it works great if it's like this, but if it's laying down, then this has, you know, it could slide downwards. I guess the different thing I could do to locate is, you know, grab it from both ends, but that's all I wanted, and to take it out nice and easy. So yeah, just got all this tacked up on here, but on the table, again, because it was laying flat, it wasn't working quite well. So I'm gonna go through, burn this together, and gotta pack up to Milwaukee and all that shit. Gonna call it after that. It's gonna be a week of hell after this, but we'll see how it goes. Good job. So here's the final update on this table build. It's working great. The purpose of this was when I go on site to do like longer term projects, I needed a surface that I could work off of to mount a vise or take my belt sander over there. So just have an area to work off of. For the most part, I'm standing whenever I'm doing that, but overall it's been working great. It's a little cumbersome to basically unfold, but it packs pretty flat. Even though it is kind of long, it fits fine in my car. This whole movement mechanism, originally I wanted to put those casters there, but realized that they would just be big and bulky, and once I kind of put it in position, I don't have to move it that much. But for when I do, I have that little receiver piece down in there. Just have to, like, the handle will, you know, keep it there, but I can easily pick this up and pivot it, kind of position it wherever I want, and it's very stout. This holder for it works great, keeps it there, and it's very sturdy. One of the jobs I just did, I actually had a hanger and like kind of an exhaust system hanging off of this. So I would clamp it in the vise, and then I have a little pipe vise I made so I could hang the exhaust off of it and weld it. So yeah, it's working great. Really happy with how it came out. Still deciding whether or not to have this ground again since it's welded to the lattice now, but honestly, like, flatness isn't super critical for what I'm using this for. Before I cut it apart, this was already ground, but when they ground it, the magnet sucked it down, and then it was flat. But as soon as it released, this plate was twice as wide, so it had a big crown in the center, so you could see all the heat marks that I put into it to try to flame strain it. In this position, I kind of overcorrected it, but again, for a general purpose fabrication table that's really stout that I could kind of lean on, it's working out great. But yeah, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed.